Hello, everyone. Welcome aboard. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are, whatever your time zone. Welcome. This is Digital Transformation Talk. I'm your host, Kevin Crane, and welcome to the show. We are here today to talk about realizing the ROI of artificial intelligence. And it's an important topic. Artificial intelligence is in the news, of course, with ChatGPT and generative AI. We've all been wondering if this is a sign that AI has come of age. And indeed, we've been talking about the benefit and the promise of AI for a while now. But AI has a problem, and that is the lackluster return on investment that affects many companies. We often talk about the benefits of AI, but the reality really is that organizations are often not seeing a financial return on their efforts with AI, or even worse, not even covering their investments at all. According to one study from McKinsey, just 22% of organizations reported a quantified value from AI. Part of the problem is that it can be difficult to define exactly what AI is and what it does and how it can and should be applied, and then making that linkage between those digital objectives and possibilities and the key performance measures of the organization. Indeed, AI as a term itself is one that encompasses many different technologies and processes and functions, so it's difficult to pin down. And that can make it challenging to determine a return on investment. Now, we can certainly start with the hard numbers, things like time savings and productivity and revenue increases, as well as soft ROI that looks at things like employee satisfaction and retention, brand enhancement, or customer experience. These are just some of the many areas where ROI can be found, but it's not that easy. And there's a lot to consider. So, how do you get your arms around calculating and realizing the ROI of AI? We'll talk about that today, but it can be helpful to roll things up into what I like to think of as big bucket impacts. The first one that comes to mind is certainly revenue impact. Will your ROI or does your ROI have a clear benefit that will translate directly to or even indirectly to revenue impacts? Next is the quality impact. Will your existing products and services experience a boost in quality? What about the process? If you're aiming to improve processes, what's the process impact? So be clear about which ones those were, how they were optimized, and by how much. And finally, business impact. AI innovations can give an organization a competitive edge, either create subtle or significant advantages. What are those? And in many cases, the benefits might not pay out right away. They may come to us in a longer time frame. So have we included and calculated the potential future business impacts? So the upshot of all of this is that estimating the ROI of AI is not an easy thing to do, yet something that should be done for every AI solution. So that's what we'll explore today. But before I introduce our guests and our news item for today, I do want to say that we want to hear from you too. We want to encourage everyone attending today to participate. So please join in with your comments in the chat feature. And if you have a question along the way for one of our guests, please enter them into the Q&A feature. I will attempt to get some of those questions into the flow of the show, and we'll have a few minutes also at the end for your questions. All right, let's get to our guests today, starting with Phil Koretz. Phil is with Microsoft. He's a marketing director at Microsoft. Phil, are you with us today? Hello, hello, Phil. Come on aboard. Where are you calling in from, Phil? I believe we need to have you unmute your mic, Phil. There you are.
There we go. Okay. Good to be
Welcome
here,
aboard,
Kevin.
Phil.
Thank you.
I assume you're calling in from beautiful Pacific Northwest in Redmond, Washington.
Gloomy gray Redmond, Washington. You got it right.
Gloomy. All right. Well, welcome aboard. Also joining us today is Navninder Singh. Navninder is Global Digital Innovation Manager at Axo Nobel. Navninder, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here. Thanks, Kevin.
Welcome aboard, sir. Where are you calling in from?
I'm calling from rainy Netherlands.
Rainy Netherlands. All right. Very good. Rainy everywhere. Here I am in Portland, Oregon. Welcome aboard. We're spanning the globe today. Thank you for joining me today. We're here to talk about realizing the ROI of AI. And to get our discussion started today, guys, I'd like to point us to a news article recently published by Forbes titled Rethink How You Do Business with Emerging Technologies. And in the article, it points out that nearly 70% of enterprises worldwide will deploy AI technology in some kind of way by 2030. So AI is soon to be ubiquitous, but not every organization knows how to proceed smartly or timely. And one recommendation from the article is to automate where viable. This makes sense, but not every process is a good candidate for AI and automation. And to capture a good ROI, I think we need to target those processes that will give us the most benefit. So I'd like to put it out to the group here today to begin with. What characteristics should we look for in a good process to target for automation? Phil, can you start us off? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I'm going to start off by being controversial. Although I
Okay.
typically agree with Forbes, I suspect that nearly all of us are using AI today, even if we don't know it. If you've ever used the design feature in PowerPoint, if you've ever used autofill, if you've ever paid for anything online, you have used AI and you're reaping the benefits from it. You're already seeing that efficiency. What I think you're talking about here is when we have large enterprise rollouts of AI projects,
Right.
how do we quantify what the ROI is there? And I think the interesting thing is we're seeing the democratization of a lot of those enterprise AI deployments, just as we've seen it in the consumer space, as I've indicated.
So what do we look for? In what process? What are the good characteristics of a target process to start applying some of these techniques? Navninder, what's your experience with that? Navninder, are you with us? Did we lose Navninder? We may have lost him. He looks frozen to me. What do you think, Phil?
I can
All right.
I can continue.
Let's see.
With
I'm
my
sure
note.
Hunter in the
Yeah.
background will reconnect with Navninder. We'll get him back on board. But so, okay, so Phil, so what you're saying, Phil, is that we already use AI in many ways in our everyday life we may not be aware of. And I get that. But now, as we're trying to calculate and capture ROI in an enterprise application, what do I look for in a process that can really bring me benefits right away with AI? In your experience with Microsoft, where are you seeing the most benefits, and what characteristics of a process should we be looking for?
Yeah, so there are a couple of processes, and I'll pass the mic to Navninder in a second, who I think is back.
Yeah.
So there are a few areas where we see a lot of success with our customers deploying AI applications. One of those is basic business productivity. Another one is around customer success and conversion. And then another one is around machine processes. So think about machine to cloud workloads that we see across manufacturing and energy environments.
Machine to cloud. I know I want to ask you a little bit about that here in a moment, but while we have Navninder back, Navninder, the question before us is that we're seeing the adoption of AI ubiquitously throughout business, indeed even using AI in ways that we're not even aware of. But when it comes to calculating and capturing ROI from AI in an enterprise application, my question is, what are the characteristics of a process that we should look for that are a good candidate for automation? And in what ways can we recognize those and make those process improvements quickly to start capturing ROI?
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. I think there are two aspects of it. One is where you already see the work happening outside your area of business. So, for example, if you look at the RPA side of things, there's a lot of off-the-shelf solutions that exist. You already know the success of those solutions in the market. You already have some kind of ROI and ready-made KPIs from day one available. So that's one side where you can be quite sure in implementing those solutions at scale. We have examples in finance, in HR for those processes, and it works perfectly fine. It's just some bit of customization that you do and you deploy for the organization. The other side is where you are actually, really innovating the solutions for your industry or for your organization. And I think that's where the process is becomes a little bit where people get a bit of a cold feet or are hesitant of entering into. And for us, what we have been trying is to divide that into few very easy buckets. So simple: desirability, feasibility, viability, those buckets. Whether it will is it something that you should do, is it something that's required, and within, if you start breaking those, you know that there are some bit of answers available to you as an organization or as a department if you're doing it. So that's an easy one to go into, but then that's an area which you need to go slow and small so that you don't disrupt something that is already going fine by trying to bring something new and which you're unsure of. So we have been experimenting, and that's what we use as a term internally, that okay, let's experiment with this particular topic and isolate it completely and see if it works for us. If it works, then you really start rolling it out slowly, and that's where we see solutions, as Phil mentioned, on the customer centric side of things. They started working for us, and that's the process we have been following now for, I believe, a few years already.
Another factor covered in the article is the ability, and suggested ROI factor is the ability to leverage the potential of data in more ways and enrich it using AI, and points to the Internet of Things as one area of opportunity to consider. And I feel you mentioned machine to the cloud. I'll quote the article here. Internet of Things with artificial intelligence can be used to process and put to work data from sensors once it's been uploaded to the cloud. In order to make wise business decisions, organizations can leverage the potential of generated data and enrich it. That sounds great. My question is, how do we do it? Now, Phil, I know that you're passionate about that. Can you give us some examples from your experience? How do we get more ROI from IoT in the cloud?
Yeah, so it's a great question. And I love that phrasing of wiser business decisions, because I think what we're trying to do here is harness the data that we have, use AI to make better decisions, better predictions, take more efficient actions. At the end of the day, if we can do those things and measure it, we've achieved ROI. IoT is an interesting one because it means we're connecting the physical world to the digital world in a way which works with our existing physical and digital infrastructure. So there are a few ways of going about doing this. One is by employing intelligence at the edge, meaning that you're conducting the analysis right there on the factory floor. Another way is to take those data from the edge and then get them into the cloud to perform analysis there, and then make that visible to operators. So as a good example, we worked with a railway company around track maintenance. And the basic business problem is, if you have thousands and thousands of miles of railroad track, you need to make sure with 100% certainty that it's not broken or the train's going to derail. So one way of doing that is by sending out operators to inspect every mile of rail. Another is by interpreting digital signals. For example, you can take video footage from drones, interpolate it with vibration data using vibrometers in the rail itself. The trick then is extracting all of those data and then making it legible to folks who understand what that actually means in the context of rail integrity. So we were able to do this, not only get the digital signals in the form of optical recognition and vibration data, but then also interpret it effectively using AI and machine learning, so that track operators at the local level would know when there was a problem, and then that could be verified with a line inspector. When you think about the ROI there, it's pretty obvious, is that you're saving a lot of miles walked and a lot of hours spent by operators having to spend all those person days on railway lines. And of course, there's a safety benefit as well there.
And of course, we hear from analysts as well that Internet of Things is also going to be ubiquitous as we move forward in the next 5-10 years as well. So the confluence of the two, I think, is powerful. Navninder, you're a global digital innovation manager at AkzoNobel. How are you folks using Internet of Things and AI in your business, and what opportunities are you seeing to build ROI?
Yeah, so if I start with the IoT side of things, it's something that's in place with us for the last few years, and it comes very specifically with the deployment of the machines for paint that we have in the market. So on the paint side, we are a retail business. We are in thousands and thousands of small and large shops where the paint is colored in the choice of the consumer. and we provide thousands of shades for the consumer to pick. But we would like to know what is being sold, so that we can at the back end know that this is what we need to produce more, and also these are the trends in the market. And for that, we need to know the data from the machines, and that's what is being done on IoT right now. So we have these IoT machines that supply the information back to us through to in our color systems, informing us what's going in the market, which part of the world is buying what kind of colors, and you can then try to bring innovation in that space. So that's one area, and it's something we have started rolling out for, I think, now 3 to 4 years already. And we already see that, yeah, when we launch a new shade in the market, we could see if our marketing communication has worked on it, and that's a clear indication of the ROI. When it comes to the AI side of things, we, as I said, deploying that some of these off-the-shelf solutions, which are in finance and in HR, when it comes to processing of invoices and things like those. But on the other side, we look at the customer centricity, and there we have visualization tools. So something that I'm personally work on is on a vision AI technologies on how to help consumers look at their homes in the choices of the colors. And for that, we use AI. We provide visualization tools that work on your phone or on your tablet, and then you can instantly see the colors. You can instantly measure the area of the wall, and you can get to know, okay, this is the amount of paint or product I would need. But internally also, we are looking at some of these technologies in improving the processes in the manufacturing sites. So that's how is a combination of things happening at our end.
2 or 3 different, very valid examples of building ROI with these types of innovations. Interesting to get your 2 different perspectives here. All right, well, let's move forward to our discussion points for today. The first one being how to implement and operate a new AI system to ensure business value is consistently maximized. To me, this is sort of one of those things like a process improvement is great when we first do it, and we maybe calculate the ROI and we get an immediate payback of some measure. But then the real trick is making sure that it's constantly bringing us more return and is maximized in its value. And indeed, that can be tricky. So, Phil, from your point of view, how do we implement and operate a new AI system to ensure business value is consistently maximized?
It's a great question. I was smiling before because Navninder may have a cooler job than I have, and I thought mine was pretty great. What a fascinating project. Yeah, so I think at the outset it's very important to define what success looks like. What is the expected impact of an AI deployment? Navninder raised a great point about starting small. So what does that look like? I'll take manufacturing at a line level. What does that look like at a plant level? What does that look like across plants? And then being able to have not only the technology governance, but also the people governance to make it tick. On top of that, we have to think about the tools for continuously monitoring performance. So what are the metrics that we've chosen to monitor? And then what are the tools to monitor those metrics, be they financial metrics or technical metrics, such as the performance of the AI system itself. At every stage, I think it's important to have not only IT on board, but then also the business owner of the project on the same side of the table. And that gets to the people governance piece of the puzzle, which turns into a change management challenge in addition to a technological challenge.
Navninder, what is your thought on making sure that the business value of our efforts is consistently maximized?
Yeah, so I think I will go to what I said earlier. It's about starting small and building from there. So if you follow the process of starting small and doing those experiments before you really, as Phil said, from line to plant to cross plant, if you go with that process, you will have less challenges. You will have more, I would say, more support from the leadership. You will have more people coming along, and that will help you just solidify the whole piece. So I think that's a simple, yeah, it's more going along with the people. That's how I see it.
We are having some chat happening now in the chat feature and some questions coming in. Thank you everyone for chatting and posing your questions. Alex has a comment that takes me to my next question for the group. Alex says, a wise man once said the goal of digital transformation isn't only about creating new digital tools and infrastructure. It's about returning business value, which can only be achieved by choosing the right KPIs or key performance indicators, which brings me to my next question. And so we've been hovering around this idea of metrics. I mean, it's one thing to talk about ROI. It is yet another to measure it, right? So how do we leverage key KPIs to accurately measure the business impact of AI? What are those KPIs and how do we really use them in ways that can measure the impact and demonstrate the value of our efforts? Navninder, what's your experience with this?
I would say again, it's few folds. It also depends on few type of projects, your KPIs. But to start with, I would say straightforward. You're looking at saving time, productivity, and yeah, more business value or more return on investment. Those are the straightforward ones. But if I go back to my earlier point, if we divide them into two segments, which is off-the-shelf solutions tested in the market, you would get these standard time saving and value KPIs, pretty straightforward, and you would already have some kind of percentages and timelines to kind of get to. So you will know, okay, 6 months you're here, 12 months you're here, and that kind of information, and the KPIs will help you, and then you can plan your milestones. When it comes to starting small, going from line to plant to cross plant, as Phil mentioned earlier, and that's where you have to really keep in mind that the value or the KPIs that you're looking at, it's not going to be exponential. It's not you are targeting at the moment the complete monetary value. You're looking at so many other factors, and then you might have to trim down after your certain stage of experimentation that, okay, these are the KPIs that are coming back. This is the kind of value I'm getting from this project. And now, is it makes sense for me to go further? And I think you will refine that over a period of time for those smaller initiatives so that you can scale them. But also you will tweak them so that you are on the right direction to get the right value. And maybe if you might have to stop completely saying, yeah, this is not the right value I'm getting. So that could be the same KPIs, it could be the time saving, it could be monetary value, it could be other efficiency matrices, but that you will tune and refine in certain period of time, unlike the bigger off-the-shelf solutions that you can deploy.
KPIs are kind of tricky. There's a bunch of them that save me money and build efficiency, and I love that. I love to save money, and I like to be more efficient. But I also really want to move the needle in terms of revenue generation and market penetration and those kinds of things. Phil, what's your experience with KPIs that speak to those measures?
It's interesting. I mean, there are only so many ways to make money in business. Top line revenue, as you indicated, bottom line cost savings, mitigate risk or increase your return to risk, or increase things like inventory turns as a volume metric. Every industry has its own KPIs that are important. There are also technical KPIs with AI that are relevant for things like measuring the accuracy of predictions. But when I think about tracking from those key business levers to the KPIs to measurement, you can think about that in a few ways. So in a industrial setting, you might care about, operational efficiency. In every industry where you have labor, you probably care about labor efficiency. Those track also to top line. So our ability to bring in revenue at a given amount of investment. I'll take one example. We were working with I think I can say the name. We're working with Pepsi Cola, and they're a fascinating business from an innovation perspective, very forward leaning. They also have some very traditional sorts of business concerns. One of them is balancing customer demand with inventory on hand.
Hmm.
Part of that is a revenue generation exercise. That's making sure that they're bringing in the maximum possible revenue for a given amount of investment. Part of that also is making the best use of their people. So what they did was they used artificial intelligence to understand customer signal. So what sorts of products were demanded where and when, and then balancing that with AI signals coming off of their warehousing and inventory systems. What they wound up doing was not only increasing the revenue results, but also saving a lot of tedious person hours that could be spent interpreting those data. So those very same people could go back to revenue generating activities and not wasting time on more mundane aspects of their work. So there you see a twofold sort of KPI activation, one around revenue targets, another around person hours.
Interesting. Do you see, I think I quoted, and let me pull it back up here, see if I can talk intelligently. According to McKinsey, my intro, just 22% of organizations reported a quantified value from their efforts with AI. That's really low. That surprises me. Do you feel that maybe what's happening is we're not looking broadly enough at the different KPIs that we should be adopting, in terms of maybe we're looking too narrowly at just the technological or the process innovation, or just the efficiency part of it? And really one of the key factors for success is really opening the door very widely to look for and calculate a variety of different measures and KPIs. Am I off base on that, Navninder? What is your thought? Why only the 22% of organizations finding value?
Yeah, I think if I just look at the top line number that you mentioned, 22%, I think it's still largely coming from those big enterprise level initiatives. But if you go deep down within the organization, there are so many initiatives that are happening. They may not be coming together at the moment that you can report the numbers on those initiatives. But that's how I see the bigger difference. It's large initiatives that are getting reported where the organizations are now comfortable, and also a lot more people in the organization understand the change that has happened with them, and that's why they are talking about it. They are communicating about it to their stakeholders across various platforms. But it's the smaller initiatives, I believe, that are still not getting reported, and that are happening in multiple pockets across different parts of the organization, across diverse businesses. They are in different geographies.
Are there industry specific measures? Jonathan here says obviously the choice of KPIs will be different depending on the industry and where we're from and so forth. What should today's experts consider as key KPIs for measuring the success of digital tools and initiatives in their respective industries? Any thoughts on that, Phil?
So yes, as a vendor to customers in multiple different industries, I've been down the road of trying to define the ideal set of KPIs that all of my customers in that industry care about.
Right.
It turns out that every customer is slightly different. So the way, for example, that one retail and consumer goods company will measure inventory turns will be slightly different from how their peer competitor measures inventory turns. So I think it's really tough to talk about these general KPIs that fit everybody. That said, I think there are also industry standard metrics that we tend to look at. I mentioned OEE as an example in manufacturing, where if you care about machine uptime and efficiency, you probably are going to measure OEE. But then there are 1,000 of those that you might care about on a given line.
Okay. Well, it's important for change agents, no matter what you're doing, whether it's with AI or any process improvement initiative, to be well versed in what the KPIs of the organization are. And sometimes you need to do some investigating to become versed in that. No matter, we don't all sit in the C-suite and understand these things from that perspective. So it's important to do that research and link as tightly as you can those business objectives to the objectives of your project. And we're finding time and time again that linkage is not always there, which may indeed account for some of the missed ships in the night when it comes to calculating ROI. All right, we could talk about KPIs for another hour or so, but I do want to move on in the time that we have left to our last discussion point. And really, the discussion point is how to mitigate human biases and ensure ethical use of AI. I want to ask about the ethical use of AI. Perhaps it is not necessarily tied directly to ROI. However, I think it's an important topic, and one that will become ever more pressing as we move forward in the adoption of various AI tools and innovations. Ethical use of AI, how do we design that in to our plan so that we are including ethics as part of maybe the measurable success factors of our organization, of our organization's efforts? Navninder, do you have a thought on that?
Yeah, I think on the. By the way, thanks for the question. I think there are two or three aspects to it. How the way we look at it. I think the one is that when you know the project is is going to involve a data that could be sliced and diced in a way that you can start referencing to a group of individuals or a group of audience in a certain market or a certain segment. I think you need to make sure that there are relevant people in that forum to avoid those things to happen. So that's from the structure of the team involved with the project. So I think that's one aspect to look at. And I think in general, because now it's happening, if I look back, this is exactly a similar kind of situation where the organizations went through when the whole social media burst happened maybe 10, 12 years ago. They all were scrambling on how to put guidelines in place for their internal usage, external usage. So I think it's a similar kind of a time for the organizations also to now come up with these guidelines so that the misuse of the data and these kind of things that I mentioned about the slice and dice is not done. So that's the second part to ensure that happens. And thirdly, which is the access to the data. As I said earlier, it should not happen that that people can see the last mile information. It should be available only at aggregated level. So these are some of the the baselines that you need to put in place. And once you have it, I think you will be 70 to 80% secure that the human bias won't exist. Now, rest is very much I think a challenge that will remain open, and I hope there will be new ways to tackle it. But that is something I think I also have to still figure out how to do it. Because people do have ways of working. People still have ways of looking at things, and they do come back with that notion and that understanding. How do you make sure that is filtered before it is built into a project or a program? So I think if you have you are largely secure, and you need to work towards that 20%. But that's something we need to work over a period of time.
And Phil, I know Microsoft is really leading the way with the use of generative AI, just in the news already this week. And how is Microsoft addressing the ethical use of AI?
It's a really important question. And if I click back just a little bit to say, I often talk about saying the thing. We're building technology. We collectively are building technology that puts us at risk of being beyond our control. And maintaining that control is really critical to not only mitigating human bias, but also to having technology serve us in an equitable way. So at Microsoft, we have four key principles, and I'll spend a little bit more time on the fourth one. The first one is governance. These are the rules and the people that govern how we use technology and how we use data, how we treat things like customer data. This is critical also for compliance and regulatory compliance. The second are having clear rules to govern standard AI requirements, how we ingest and store data, for example. The third one is people. This is training and best practices. The technology is here to serve us. It's to serve employees. It's to serve customers. It's to serve our partners. People have to be trained to use the technology well as a first step before we even get into the tools and processes. The fourth one are the tools for implementation. And I think the really interesting development in the last couple of weeks from a Microsoft standpoint is we've gone from talking about autopilot to talking about copilot. What that really means is if you have an AI model, which is a black box, we don't know what's happening on the inside. What's becoming really clear to us now is the need not only to be able to collaborate with our AI tools, but to be able to crack open the hood, to open the black box and have transparency about the data that's going in, the output that's coming out, and what's transforming those data. So being able to have things like machine learning interpretability at scale, those tools are available today. They may not have been as available a few years ago. And those tools for implementing AI responsibly are going to be really important as we design the AI tools and technologies that are going to be with us for the foreseeable future. This is really a generational change.
Very good. Well, we are getting close to running out of time, but before we do, I do want to try to get to a couple of our questions that are still left over from the discussion here. Thank you so much, everyone, for your questions today. This one coming from Alex, question, comment. In addition to promoting a culture of ethics and diversity within organizations, AI governance and policies are often advocated as the best way forward to mitigate bias. In the opinion of the panelists, which internal and external controls should be enshrined in such frameworks? Interesting question. Navninder, do you have a thought? What are your thoughts on that, Navninder? Did we lose Navninder? He is frozen again, Phil. Oh, no, Navninder's back. Are you with us, Navninder? Something's going on with him. So, Phil, I'm going to go to you. What's your thought on Alex's comment about including ethics and governance in policies?
Yeah, so it's important to have alignment from the top down and from the bottom up. What I mean by that is having ethics baked into your business model, having board level approval of your mission, not only from a shareholder return standpoint, but also from an ethical standpoint, is super important. The reverse is also true, which is you want every single person to have the tools and understanding which they need to handle data in a responsible way, and then to know how to remove bias from the standpoint of whatever line of business they happen to work in. And bridging those two requires governance, it requires management oversight, and it requires technology. So it's the marriage of those three.
Interesting. With Navninder back now, Navninder, Rebecca is asking, with so many SaaS vendors out there offering valuable analytics for the AI platforms, what key elements should an enterprise looking to become more agile and predictive in their problem solving consider before adopting an AI enterprise strategy? Navninder, do you have a thought on that?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the question. I think, yeah, it's quite a loaded question. I think, yeah, you need to look at a lot of aspects, starting with, your internal KPIs that you have for your program, also, and what's out there when your SaaS vendors are offering. So there has to be a kind of a perfect marriage that you have to look forward to before you pick up. But if I understand the question correctly, it's also about. Let me just go back to the question.
Really,
sorry. Yeah, more. Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Navninder. Yeah, you bet.
Yeah, I think it's yeah, for the predictive part and the agile part, it's again, you will refine those KPIs, you will refine those indicators over a period of time. So you have to again go slow, pick certain aspects of those offerings, and not go for the full solution. It won't do justice to the whole program.
All right, very good. Thank you for your questions and comments, everyone in the chat and the Q&A today. We are here with Phil Koretz, Marketing Director at Microsoft, and Navninder Singh, Global Digital Innovation Manager at ExxonMobil. Gentlemen, it's been great speaking with you today. I'm so sorry that we're almost out of time, but before I let you go, one last question. I'm hoping that I can ask you to please provide us with one quick action item that our listeners and viewers can do to take advantage of the ideas and advice here today. Navninder, 60 seconds. Do you have an action item for us?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Kevin. I would say there's a lot of emerging technology outside. What you need to do is get out and try different small solutions in different parts of the business. As Phil mentioned earlier, there has to be solutions that can be implemented in different parts of the business. So democratize it so that different players, different aspects of the business can learn from it. And once the whole organization is becoming more and more comfortable with it, your large scale solutions, large scale programs will already start coming in together. You will already feel people are more knowledgeable for those discussions, and you can have a much faster pace in rolling out those big programs. So start small. It's a time. There's a technology. Go out and try.
Very good. And Phil, do you have an action item for us today?
I do, and it's something that I'm personally excited about. We had a product announcement, actually a series of product announcements last week called The Future of Work. What was it called? Reinventing Productivity with AI. It's the co-pilot concept made real through all of our applications, our productivity applications, Word, PowerPoint, Excel, is business chat functionality. It's the only product demo that my wife has raved about to me without me telling her about it. It's really going to change how we work. It's a really clear example of how AI is going to make all of our work, nearly everyone on the call today, all of our work different within the span of just a couple of years. So take a watch. Kevin, I think you'll put the link in the chat window there and reach out with
Indeed,
questions.
it is. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Very good. That is Phil Koretz. Navninder Singh. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being with us today. The panel was great. Your perspectives and advice are spot on. So thank you so much. I hope that we'll get a chance to talk again soon. And to everyone joining us today, thank you too. Thanks for joining us. Join us next week at 1600 GMT when we will talk with another great panel of experts next time about the future of work, driving efficiency, motivation, and innovation. It should be another great discussion. And if you'd like to find me, you can do so on LinkedIn. I'm happy to connect there. Check me out, Kevin Crane, and you can find me on my weekly podcast, the Digital Transformation Podcast. But that'll do it for this episode of Digital Transformation Talk. So until next week, I'm Kevin Crane. Thanks for watching.